Warning, the following program may contain coarse language, strong violence, and brief sexuality. This video is designed for a mature audience, and viewer discretion is advised.
Shoulder Shade Reviews, review number 14, Destiny.
The darkness is coming back. We will not survive it this time.
I may sound like a broken record here due to how many times I mention it in the series, but hype is an extremely sharp double-edged sword that more often than not ruins many experiences. I know this, for I too have fallen for it far too many times. A new game in your favorite series gets announced, the teaser was awesome, your fantasies begin to take over on how amazing it's going to be. You start thinking about it every day, slowly counting the days down till the product comes out, and when that day comes, you read the reviews and see they're amazing, causing you to tremble with joy, eagerly going to a local game store to pick it up, murmuring to yourself as you drive back in anticipation, then ripping open the packaging to finally put it in your console with the biggest grin in the world on your face, and then finally pressing start on the main menu so you can finally experience it, and then finding that it's not as amazing as you thought it would be. I would be here all day if I were to list all the games, shows, or events that did that to me, but I think it's safe to say that this is the general consensus of everyone who's played Bungie's MMO shooter epic, Destiny. While there was plenty of hype surrounding it, with me included jumping in very late due to the beta access, link to the video in the description, I was still a little skeptical of the MMO elements and the promises it had on the table. And believe me, those were big promises. A shooter franchise that would retain the same game, lasting 10 years, with expansions and hopefully maintaining a successful and rabid fanbase to keep it interesting. Pretty astronomical, huh? But that didn't change the fact that it sold several million copies on multiple SKUs and was even claimed by Activision as the most successful entertainment launch ever, all while maintaining the middling reviews at best. Everyone was fine with it at first, but as more time was poured into the universe, problems began to arise, and it went on to show how small the world actually was. However, I'm getting into spoiler territory there, and I'm not sure where I'm quite going with this intro, so does Destiny provide us with a brave new experience that only the Divine Traveler can provide, or should we have let the universe be consumed by the darkness? Get ready, Guardians, for we are going into the dark below. I'll be honest here, the story for Destiny is pretty unfinished and was clearly scrapped at the last minute, maybe due to trying to push this game out or Bungie really not having a clear idea where they were going with this. It's insultingly simple to the point that I'm just going to spoil the entirety of the plot right here, and trust me, I'm not spoiling anything, so please stick around. For those of you who want to get out, you have until Dinklebot stops scanning the terminal to click the image. Move fast, young Guardian.
What we really need to find is a warp drive, so we can jump to any planet or moon. Our only hope is where we found our ship. We have to go back.
Okay, so you are a Guardian revived from Earth by Peter Ghost, who I coin as Dinklebot. You are quickly confronted by aliens named the Fallen, with little to no explanation on how you got on Earth, why it looks like this, how exactly Dinklebot revived you, who these aliens are, and what this mysterious darkness is and whatnot, where you quickly wipe them out and make your way to the last known stronghold of Forces of Light, known as the Tower. After a couple of missions where you quickly learn the ropes of a Guardian's duties, you are introduced to the Speaker, leader of the Forces of Light and the one who talks to the Traveler, the godlike entity that the tower sits on. You exchange a few words and very little explanation before he tells you that you and you alone must destroy the darkness that threatens the tower. From there, you go on to the moon to fight the Hive and get a message to go to Venus. When you arrive on Venus, you fight the Vex and meet an Exo Hunter who isn't a Guardian, where she tells you to meet the Queen of the Awoken. Don't worry, I'll explain these races in a little bit. You form an uneasy alliance with the Queen and bring back the head of an elite Vex, where she tells you to go to Mars. Noticing a pattern here, you finally then go to Mars, fight some Cabal aliens and some Vex, where you find the Heart of Darkness and destroy it in a tedious 3-form boss fight. Everyone celebrates and you get a fairly useless gun. The end. Trust me, that's it, and while there are collectible Grimoire cards scattered across the universe, you can only read them on the Bungie.net website, and that's pretty backwards design if you want to invest a player in your world. So yeah, Destiny's story is pretty bare bones, and even the bonus stuff is dull and undesirable. Characters are pretty static and only serve as shopkeepers outside of cutscenes, and even when they are in cutscenes, they're rarely interesting. Factions don't do much outside of giving you their gear, which you acquire by grinding Crucible or Vanguard marks to their ranks. This is all a real damn shame, because most of the potential could have been spent on establishing a Star Wars space epic full of space wizards and unique god-esque aliens, but instead it's a stale game plot with almost no depth at all. But hey, just because this Guardian's backstory isn't all that interesting, doesn't mean that they can't hold their own in a fight and show us up on this mission. So with that, let's beam over to gameplay, shall we? Where Destiny falters in its story, it definitely makes up in gameplay, but buckle up because there's much to talk about here. From the start, you are given the choice between 3 classes: Titan, Hunter, and Warlock. And while they do have different abilities, they all largely play the same. All their supers have huge single-use attacks that do a ton of damage except for the Hunter, and there aren't any major differences between their stats besides personal taste. The only real difference between them is the different subclasses that come with each one. The Titan gets a bubble shield that get you out of a tight spot. The Hunter has an OP mode that makes you an unstoppable OP asshole who's impossible to kill. And Blade Dancers. And Warlocks get a buff that instantly revives them if they fall in battle. Controls are smooth and slick, and shooting the various aliens is always satisfying. Enemies are diverse and smart, whether you're fighting the tactical Fallen with their grunt-like dregs and elite-esque captains, or the defensive and agile Cabal forces composed of legionaries and phalanxes. While the gun selection isn't the most diverse out there, there's the usual revolver, shotgun, sniper rifle, rocket launcher, machine gun, you get the idea, gun types for you to choose from. Early in the game, you're constantly picking up weapons in new gear akin to Borderlands, but as you go on later in the game and get better gear, this pretty much grinds to a halt, enforcing the game's repetitive reputation. There are also some vehicles for you to choose from, but they're so rarely used that it seems like an afterthought. Sure, you're going to be using your speeder-like Sparrow a lot, but there are maybe a handful of times that you use the heavier Pikes or Interceptors in missions. Like many MMOs, Destiny has a vast character creator where you can pick a male or female of 3 different races: normal human, robotic exo, and Asari-like Awoken. Unfortunately, it's rather underutilized due to you constantly switching armor types that never show your features. You do take off your helmet at the tower, but since the social aspects are practically non-existent, it's little more than just a cosmetic choice. There are shaders for your armors too, but the best ones are hidden behind factions that take a whole lot of grinding to unlock, and I kept running into the same 4 or 5 non-faction ones constantly, so if you want to pimp your Guardian with a certain color, you're going to have to do some research. Luckily, emblems and ships are much easier to change, though admittedly you see them very little. One of the things you do have complete control over, however, is your class loadout, and you can put points into whatever you want to put points into. You can respec at any time and even change your subclass if you feel the one you're using isn't for you. Now onto the big divider, which is the missions themselves, which are pretty okay, but definitely lacking in diversity and in general follows a strict formula. At the beginning of every mission, you're told some flavor text on what to do, and then you go to a place, Dinklebot scans something that leads to an excluded area in the map where you fight 3 and always 3 waves of increasingly difficult enemies. Dinklebot says something, which afterward is followed by a bullet sponge boss that is either too easy or too cumbersome to take out. After defeating the boss, the mission ends, and then you are then rewarded with an RNG loot system that has been the bane of almost every player's existence.
What in the world, man? Seriously? What is going on with this game and its loot system?
It's sad, really, because all that Destiny really needed was to tweak a few things to keep the player interested, but it decided to follow the rather grindy MMO formula. How about instead of another bullet sponge boss, we dedicate a mission to traveling around the map on vehicles, taking out enemy bases or tanks? How about instead of ditching the sword after one mission, you bring it back during boss encounters or make it an equipable power-up for player abilities? Hell, why don't we even bring the space battles like you did in Halo Reach? Remember those? PvP and co-op fare a little better by having tighter designed missions and game types that are a lot more fun, but you're going to have to go through some story to access them, and PvP isn't exactly balanced. However, they are enjoyable to play and are a nice deviation from the story bits, so I wouldn't hark on them too much. But yeah, that's Destiny. Really enticing in some areas, and it can keep you playing for hours, but also extremely repetitive with some baffling poor design decisions that hamper the structure that it was built on. Which is not to say that I disliked my journey with Destiny, because during the high points of the game, I was really having a good time. Although I can't overlook its major design flaws, and while I might have claimed that this could have been the next big step that next gen needed, it turned out to be a bit of a stumbling step sideways. Disappointing, I know, but it looks like Dinklebot discovered a new planet, so let's go see what it looks like, shall we? As I said with my first glance video, Destiny is an extremely gorgeous game that is surprisingly consistent despite being on multiple SKUs. The art is sublime, the game graphics are near indistinguishable from cutscenes, and considering the size of maps and the amount of secrets in space presented, it's surprising that the game only came on one disc. For the sake of the review, I purchased the PS4 copy of the game, and from the comparison videos I've seen, this is the sharpest and smoothest running version of the game there is. Though that's not to say that everything is perfect, and I definitely wouldn't call it the best looking game ever. For all the praise I give the art direction, some of the guns can look blobby and unrefined when in the first person perspective, and there are several reused assets throughout the universe. Heck, getting close enough to some of the textures will make them look like they were ripped from some Unreal Engine 3 game, especially the PvP maps, which were obviously downgraded to make the online component run smoother. But it's really hard to find a whole lot wrong with Destiny's presentation, because once you look at the vast map size and the various character designs, you can tell that a lot of love and care went into this. It's a shame that that same love and care didn't go into the story or refining the gameplay, but for the most part, it's really impressive, and it definitely deserves the next-gen title that it claims to have. I really wish I had more to say here, but really I don't. I enjoy Destiny's presentation immensely, and a lot of games should take note on what's presented here. And with that out of the way, prepare your blood sacrifice and let us chant the ritual to some of the old one, Marty O'Donnell. Much like its superb presentation, Destiny also boasts a unique and atmospheric soundtrack to boot. Composed by the ever-so-talented Marty O'Donnell, who also composed the Halo soundtracks, Destiny boasts plenty of memorable and soothing music in it. There's much on display here, from the heroic trumpets of the Guardians' themes to the lulling and airy chants of the Hive and Fallen, and it all sounds great. One of the tracks that really gets to me is the track that plays while you're in orbit in your spaceship, aptly named Excerpt from Ecstasy. It's really soothing, and when combined with the main theme, Legend, it really makes the soundtrack a must-buy. Though note, good old Marty got fired a little before the game launched, so don't expect to be supporting him when you buy it. As far as voice acting goes, it's decent enough, with the main standout being Peter Dinklage as your ghost. He doesn't really emote all that much during your journey, but considering the role he plays and how little story and characterization there is, I don't entirely blame him. Everyone else does their part, and even though I know there are some big name actors tied to minor roles, they don't particularly stand out. So as far as Folly is concerned, Destiny provides an exceptional soundtrack with passable voice performances, and now that we've got the start being cornered, let's pull out our rocket launcher and deliver the final blow. Going into Destiny, I was expecting something satisfying, yet at the same time disappointing, like ordering a cherry cheesecake ice cream and just getting a cherry one instead. But really, despite my somewhat negative start, I did enjoy my experience with Destiny, even though some others can't say the same. However, despite liking it, I can't help but feel that this was a bit of a misstep and stumble on Bungie's reputation, and while the game was a massive success, Bungie's credibility has been somewhat tampered. Sure, by all means the game is fine, but the insanely disappointing story and massive waste of potential on so many ends have soured people's experiences, and I think it's going to take some major convincing to bring people back. That's not to say that I didn't have a good time, because if I were to say that, I would be lying. The gameplay is fun, but it gets very stale if too much time is spent on it, and while it does have phenomenal tunes and a shiny coat of paint, I can't help but get the feeling that this effort should have been maybe put somewhere else. Destiny turned out to be quite the enigma to review, but for what it's worth, I did enjoy it, and while other people have more vocal opinions about it, I walked away from it satisfied, but feeling that there could have been a better game waiting for me with another year or two of polish. But as it stands, Destiny is an enjoyable and competent shooter that has its moments of awe. Too bad getting to those moments will be a true test of a Guardian's diligence. So after defeating the Moonrain Corps for the 50th time and turning in a bounty and netting me enough Vanguard marks to find me before that sweet legendary gun, I have decided to give scores to story, gameplay, presentation, sound, and overall enjoyment of the game, beginning with story, which gets an awful 3.5 for being a massive disappointment and clearly having several scenes and scenarios taken out due to something happening during development. Next there's gameplay, which gets a really 6.5 for having solid design, if being a bit too repetitive for its own good. Succeeding from that is presentation, which gets an excellent 8.75 for having great art and graphics, albeit with some constantly reused assets. After that there's sound, which gets an astounding 8.5 for its astounding soundtrack and decent vocal performances. Finally there's enjoyment, which gets a solid 7.0 for providing an enjoyable shooter, if a bit of a flawed one. Tallying all these scores together, I ultimately get Destiny an okay 67% and give the recommendation to rent/borrow it. It may be a solid game, but it's not for everyone, and there's only so much repetition that people can take. Looking at the time I recorded this, May 7th, 2015, I may have been a little late to the party with this review, but if you're somehow still on the fence, I suggest you pick up the demo that is available on all SKUs before making your purchase. It gives you all the story missions of the first zone and a taste of the multiplayer and strike missions, so if you play those and want to experience more, definitely pick this up. So you may be wondering, well, how do I pick up this game? In which I have to tell you that it is available on both last-gen Xbox 360 and PS3 hardware, as well as current-gen PS4 and Xbox One hardware. Prices range anywhere from $28 for a physical copy or $60 for an online one from all major retailers. Currently, I would suggest getting a copy from Amazon, for that is the cheapest that I have found it. Comparison videos have shown that there isn't a whole lot of difference as far as graphics go between the versions, but current gen SKUs do appear to be sharper and have a little bit more detail in them. Keep in mind that this review was done with the PS4 version of the game. For other game recommendations, I'll start out with the very popular Mass Effect trilogy for having a similar sci-fi aesthetic and setting, but keep in mind that the game is more of an RPG than a shooter. After that, well, this is probably going to be a bit of a cop-out, but I'll recommend the Halo series if you want a more shooter-focused sci-fi game, with Marathon on the side if you're looking for something more old school. Both games are pretty excellent in their own right, and I would definitely tell others to check them out if they haven't already. With that, it's time for me to take my leave. Thanks again so much for watching, everyone, and special thanks to Monku for subscribing to me. Thanks very much, man. For you hitting that button means a lot to me. Please comment about any concerns or mistakes I made with this video. Any to all constructive criticism is appreciated, and I look forward to seeing some insightful discussion below. Farewell for now, and look forward to something much more musical and special for the next review. This is Shield of Shade, signing out, and here's hoping that we meet once again in the stars. Dear Guardian, for all ends are new beginnings.